What a Friday night in the Twin Cities. Moose Miller sitting in for John Hines here on Hindsight on News Radio 830 WCCO. As we jump into our next conversation, and this should be a really interesting one from the perspective of the Republican caucuses coming up in less than, 10 days in Iowa. And the candidates all trying to make things happen. And that's where we pick things up this evening with Roshini Rajkumar. She is a communication coach. She's an author. She's just put together Communicate That, a sought-after keynote speaker, commentator. You might have caught her on some of the local and national media on some topics related to powerful communication for executives and politicians, maybe even for implementing a business strategy. But the thing that caught my eye here, she's a licensed attorney, so we want to be on her good side. Welcome, Roshini.
Thank you, Moose. It's so great to be on with you. Thanks for having me on. And I love talking politics. You know, I'm a former reporter. It was always my favorite thing to cover. And now as a coach and a consultant, I can actually share my opinion, and that's really fun.
Well, sure, especially probably from the perspective years that you've put together going, ooh, you know, as a reporter, I really can't comment on that, but you kind of check that one off and go, you know what, that's going to be in the don't category.
Exactly. And when I was still kind of a green TV reporter, the 1999 Iowa straw poll was in Ames, Iowa, and I was there. It was just, it was like I was a kid in a candy store. That was when, as you know, President Bush was, or the now former President Bush was running. Alan Keyes was running.
Oh, yeah.
Steve Forbes, and then Elizabeth Dole. And I interviewed both Elizabeth and Bob Dole, one-on-one interviews. And unfortunately, she dropped out. I think it was a sad thing because she was very, very qualified before the Iowa caucuses. And then I covered the 2000 Iowa caucuses in Des Moines. And that was just a fabulous experience as a person, as a lover of politics, and definitely as a reporter. So it's fun to watch everything, since that time after I left TV News to, talk about it and really look at it from the communication perspective. What do the body language, the words they're saying, the clothes they're wearing even say? What are they trying to communicate, and are they actually communicating what they want to?
Let's start with Michelle Bachmann, because she is a sharp dresser, looks great. The camera seems to love her. It's sometimes what comes out of her mouth.
And if you look at Newt Gingrich's record, not only is he a big government liberal, he's also on the progressive territory.
What does she need to do here in the home stretch?
Oh, Moose, you could fill your whole entire show tonight with the answer to that question. Here's what I'm going to say there. You are absolutely right about her look. She is a beautiful woman. If you notice, though, lately, she's wearing her hair up.
Yeah.
Did you see that at the most recent
I think
debate?
She's tired.
Well, she's also trying to say, look, I'm serious. I'm not that glam cover girl. You can take me seriously.
Oh.
Because, that's my subtextual message I want you to look at. I saw some pictures on blogs and print articles lately. Her hair is up. That was the first thing I noticed on the most recent GOP debate. She's really trying to be taken much more seriously. She is liked by the moral majority when it comes to the fringe element of the Conservative Party and who votes in those Iowa caucuses, right?
Sure.
The moral majority, right? So that's an interesting thing to look at, and let's see if her hair ever comes down between now and January, 4th.
Yeah, well, Sarah Palin pulled that same look off by kind of pulling the hair up from time to time,
Well, and actually, Sarah Palin wore her hair up more of the time. And what I'm seeing with Michelle Bachmann, with Sarah Palin, her voice, her vocal behavior got more folksy as time went on. She found that sort of was attractive to her base and her core voters. What Michelle Bachmann, I think, has figured out is, okay, I'm a lawyer, people like me, but she's also dropped off from several months ago. So she's had to kind of recharge and make over her own image. I'm wondering if the men are going to finally go after her as the only female candidate. They've been pretty hands-off, but part of what that says to me is also they're not taking her as seriously. Because if they were, they shouldn't worry about going after her.
All right, I'm going to share a clip with you and everybody else here at WCCO. And I'm kind of curious, from your coaching perspective, Roshini, what would you coach your client or politician or executive to handle a question that is more of a gloved punch. This was Chris Wallace with Michelle Bachmann a while back.
Are you a flake?
Well, I think that would be insulting to say something like that because I'm a serious person.
Your thoughts on how she handled it and how somebody handles something like that getting kind of tossed in their lap?
That's a great clip, Moose. The first thing I would have said is, of course I'm not a flake. I mean, show a little bit of irreverence when someone asks you what you're thinking is a dumb question. Instead of saying, well, that's disrespectful. I mean, don't be that school marm that's pointing the fingers. Just say, no, I'm not a flake. And, who's saying that I'm a flake? And then go point by point through your record and show us that you're not a flake. Now, Michelle Bachmann does have a little bit of a challenge showing us all those things that don't make her a flake, but that's what I'm going to be looking for in the next week. And, these ads are going to really start coming out this weekend. It's Christmas weekend. I have some running partners who are actually from Des Moines, and they're going home for Christmas, and they're not looking forward to the TV ads while they're down there. So I don't blame them because it's a barrage.
Well, from what I understand, Rick Perry has bought huge in Iowa. And then there are a lot of attack ads that have come out from the Mitt Romney supporters.
Right.
And, I grew up in Iowa, and Minnesota's my second home, but, I have a lot of family and friends in Iowa. And I got to tell you, it's just crazy the amount of TV and radio bombardment that comes at people.
It is crazy, and I just remember that from reporting at my station in Des Moines. The thing about Rick Perry, I actually really liked him from the beginning. I thought, okay, here's a good challenge, good-looking guy from Texas. He's got, swagger. He's got all this stuff going on, a good challenge to Mitt Romney. But then every time he opens his mouth, he sounds drunk to me, and we know, and looks drunk, and we know that he has had some goofs or some oopsies, as he calls them. And what I understand is some surgery he's had. He's been on medication for this, terrible pain. And, in his back, like something like that. I was reading about a staffer saying, ever since he's had that surgery, I think it was some sort of thing with his spine. And I don't want to be inaccurate on that, but it has something to do with the surgery, medication. And now, is that true? Or is he really drunk? I mean, is that the staffer saying, no, he really is in pain on these medications?
Yeah.
Because if you watch, he's shaking, moving, and I think he's tried to cut some of that out, but it was very uncomfortable for me to watch when he was first surging, and he'd be on stages, especially when he was sitting, and there's all this kind of squirming going around. So that sends off a subtextual message that most of the electorate, whether they realize it or not, will not react well to.
Well, it's almost like there's Rick Perry and then Rick Perry Unplugged. And the video that I think of was, I think when he was out in New Hampshire or Vermont speaking at a small supporters dinner, and he was just kind of, it appeared, speaking off the cuff, and it just came across as, the only word I can come up with is borderline reckless.
I absolutely second that. And what I'll say about Rick Perry is if I were a reporter right now, he would be a reporter's dream because it's such funny video to watch, right, when he does that. And you're just sitting there. I mean, you can't pay for that great of sound. You know what I mean? That he just gives us.
Roshini, your thoughts on the latest ad from him. Have you seen what they're nicknaming now the Pouncer?
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay, maybe it's just running in parts of Iowa, but I caught it the other night, and CNN had started to break it down a little bit. But his wife is featured in the ad at first.
Okay.
And then at the very end of the ad, Rick Perry almost like pounces in like a cat over her shoulder beside her, crouching down. He's like, and I support her too. I fully support that. But it just comes across as, I understand they were probably squeezed for time to put this thing together, but all I can come up with is he's got cat-like reflexes, super fast.
I love your impersonation of him. I mean, again, he is a reporter and a talk show host dream, but with every one of these people, we need to ask ourselves, I mean, you're a radio host, I'm a coach, but, at the end of the day, we're American citizens. Do we want what we're seeing on the stage, on the screen, representing us individually and representing us as a country?
Sure.
That's the question to ask, whether you're a caucus voter or a regular person out there analyzing these people. So it's a really good first test of everybody.
Roshini, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want your thoughts on Newt Gingrich, who, as you mentioned, late night comics dream.
Today, Republican presidential candidate Newt Gingrich said he does not support gay marriage. Yeah. He said marriage is a sacred sacrament that should only be between a man and his first, second, and third wife.
So,
Great.
We'll get how you would coach a candidate like Newt, and well, I'll tell you what, he's sure been interesting to watch in the last series of debates. And also, we can't forget Mitt Romney.
What's up, gangsters? It's the MI double tizzle.
Okay, we'll run it all down next year on News Radio 830 WCCO. Moose Miller sitting in for John Hines.
From the Buick Studios, this is News Radio 830 WCCO.
Moose Miller duetting here with Roshini Rajkumar, and
I really can't stay.
Baby, it's cold outside.
wow, we
I've
sound a lot
gotta
like
go
Michael
away.
Bublé
Baby, it's cold out there.
and Jennifer
This
Hudson.
evening has been
So happy that you dropped
so
in.
very
Yeah, we are. We're happy you dropped in this evening.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to duet with you on politics. It's so great.
When were you doing your thing on Channel 4? I'm trying to get my mind.
When I was in Minneapolis TV, I was actually at the Fox affiliate.
Okay.
And then not long after I started my business, in 2007, I was asked to come on the WCCO radio team. So I was
Okay.
a part-time anchor and fill-in host for you guys for about
Okay.
18 months. Yep.
Our paths never crossed them because
No,
I
I
was
know.
I was there in the 90s, and okay, now just kind of coming back.
I
So.
definitely know of you, though, Moose. So your reputation precedes you.
Great. Don't believe everything you hear. Okay, trust me. All right, so let's get back to our political discussion here, starting with Newt Gingrich and the Iowa primaries and perceptions from your perspective of communications, body language, that kind of thing. What are your thoughts?
Well, Newt is one of those characters that I'm sure right now the Republican Party is saying, OMG, because he's got a lot of really great experience. He knows the deal. He knows the language, but he also has the Newt ego. And that pops up too many times. And the religious quadrant, which is, who's going to go out and vote at the caucuses in Iowa, they really are not into his lifestyle. And, the joke from your host, the late night talk shows, marriage is 1, 2, 3, and then all these affairs and all this stuff. If you fundamentally don't agree with his lifestyle, that part of the party is not going to be able to believe him or buy him as a leader. So what is he going to do about that? Well, in 10 days, I don't know what he can do. He may have some trick up his sleeve, though. I'd love to see it. But, really Newt is who gets in the way of Newt most of the time.
I'll tell you, though, his debate performances here have been really spectacular.
No, I agree with you, and that's what I mean. He knows how to talk the talk. That's the thing. I mean, he is that Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde character. When he is the good side of that, he is the guy you want to vote for, you want to root for, you feel like he can lead our country out of the craziness it's in right now.
Sure. Well,
yeah.
You look at the way that he handled the whole infidelity issue question when it came up, and he just pretty much threw his arms up and said, yeah, you're going to have to judge me. That's me. I was kind of struck by that because I had not seen that out of Newt Gingrich before that.
Here's the thing. I call that the George W. Bush, you'll drink a beer with him quotient. Newt has that, and who in this country isn't flawed? We're all flawed. We all have, dark secrets or things that we don't want to talk about.
Exactly.
At Christmas dinner. But at the end of the day, Americans are going to like it when you admit it. That's why admitting it is the first step. But then once you've admitted it and you've said, yep, I messed up, in George Bush's case, I tried cocaine, I did this, I did that, you're seen as a real person.
Okay.
But then, Newt, you got to calm down,
Sure.
You've got to perform like you do at the debates and let that carry out every time instead of some of the bombastic things that do come out of his mouth.
All right, well, how about Mitt Romney? We got a couple minutes left here. The moment that I grabbed here on this clip, and I'll play this.
$10,000? $10,000 bet?
That look on his face, it came across to me during that moment in the debate when he challenged Rick Perry to a $10,000 bet. I sensed that we got a glimpse of an angry Mitt Romney there, kind of just fed up to the point where, you know what, bud, I got the money to buy you 20 million times over and shut you down.
Right.
And then that door just closed that quickly.
Right. What I wish for Mitt, because, he is picture perfect, family man, grandfather, handsome, but lets the gray still come in on the side, so he's an older guy. But and he can't get it right. He should be the poster child for the Republican Party, and he's just not. But at the end of the day, he does have the fight and the gusto in him. And if he just let go, kind of maybe pull a little from the Newt book, playbook, let go and take that energy of challenging for a 10,000 bet, don't say dollar values, but just say, look, you want to fight me on this issue, and this program, I'll go head-to-head with you. That's the language I would recommend as a coach that he uses, not the dollar value, unless it's like a $10 bet.
Excellent. Well, Roshini, great stuff. Great to catch up with you. And we look forward to what's going to happen out of Des Moines coming up here in a couple of weeks. Thanks for joining us on WCCO.
Thanks, Moose. Merry Christmas.
Right back at you. Roshini Rajkumar, our guest here on Hindsight.